Welcome back to Azzy's Guide. This is part 2 for the Eternal Battlegrounds, and what I want to do now is cover Stonemist Castle and some of the overall layout of like the bigger map. I'll start with the overall layout of the map. So looking at it, there are 3 basic factions, of course the 3 servers, red, green, and blue. However, they're designated or named or whatever. So to just begin, let me just kind of draw the delineation between the 3 sides. Each of these factions basically have 4 towers, 1 keep, and 2 supply camps. Again, 4 towers, 1 keep, and 2 supply camps. They are blocked or divided by a NPC camp. So between red and green is the moles, red and blue are the ogres, and green and blue are the hylics. But there is not just like the physical boundaries. There's also like different running paths. So there's different ways to get to your enemies. One is definitely through like the NPC camps like this. The other is probably through or around Stonemist. So you can go around Stonemist and Colvin's Gulch and stuff like that. And so that's how the map is sort of divided. So right now what I'll do is I'll go into Stonemist and the NPCs a little bit, and hopefully that'll be part 3 or part 2 of this series on the Eternal Battlegrounds. Boop. So Stonemist Castle, let us zoom in. Wow, that was cool, or not. Stonemist is probably the grand prize that everyone wants when they come to Eternal Battlegrounds, because it's worth 50 points and it's really cool, and it's kind of mocking everyone when you hold it and they don't. It's worth 50 points, which is a lot of points, but it's not game breaking. It helps to have the equivalent of 2 keeps worth of points. But more so, it's like a morale factor. If you hold Stonemist, you're the badass for that time being on the map. Stonemist has 3 outer gates. There are no secret entrances that I know of right now. And the ways into the mini dungeon are not through Stonemist. Again, look at my link down below. So I call this the southwest, the southeast, and the northern gate. Once you break through, there are 3 inner gates. One I think is right here, here, and here. I didn't really draw them too well. Sorry, maybe it's out here. So there's 3 inner gates that you could get through, and it's not like directly in line with the outer gate, so you kind of have to like run around and stuff. And so it's kind of cool when all 3 outer gates are broken and players are fighting over the inner gate and trying to get in. But once you even break past that, and I'm going to draw it on the side, there's like a first floor where there's a lot of guards. Then there's like a skill challenge in there too. You kind of have to sit there and meditate on it for a little bit. There's these stairs that lead up to the 2nd floor, and the 2nd floor has your keep lord. So it's a legendary keep lord or Stonemist lord, and he's really powerful. He can one-shot players. Pretty awesome stuff. And then on the opposite end, there's these stairs that lead to the 3rd floor. What the 3rd floor does is it leads out to all these little ramps here. And let me just kind of delete some of my drawings and crap. So if you notice, and let me drop my brush size so you get a better pinpointed view of what's going on. If you notice that there's these ramps over here, these little outcrops can be gotten to on the 3rd floor. They have cannons, and you could build the mortars up there, and you could use those to defend Stonemist on the inside, or to bombard even further out, like Tudorios or Zalius or Wild Creek. Maybe you could bombard. And so sometimes, like if you're fighting your way in and you can't defeat the keep lord, you don't have enough players, or a lot of the enemies are coming in, it might be wise to go to the 3rd floor and kind of camp out there. And the 3rd floor is kind of donut shaped. So there's this hole up here, so you could stand up here and shoot down into this area here. And one time we were fighting our way in, we got up here and we're fighting, and our players were just dropping like flies. And what we noticed was the enemies had set up 2 ballistas, one right after the other, right up on these stairs that lead to the 3rd floor. Really smart gameplay, and they were just shooting our players down. And finally we did a good push. We pushed them back. Actually what we did was we killed the keep lord, and then keep lord went and beat them down because he turned to our side. And so that was kind of one thing that was really cool with Stonemist, is that Like there's so much defensible positions, and even if you're up here, you'd set up ballista or build arrow carts to bombard down into this room, which would be really nasty. So it's very defensible, and you could hold it, and of course supply is important in holding this position, but if you are just smart about it and you build up the right upgrades like reinforced walls and gates, you could really hold Stonemist for a long time. It favors the defenders big time, even though there's a lot of different ways in. One other thing I want to note about Stonemist is that, let me bring the Treb chart over. This is my trebuchet chart. So the center thing is like a little Treb. Out here is the catapult range is blue, and then the red is how far trebuchets could shoot. And this is just from my experience in the game. It's not like an accurate ArenaNet saying this is accurate and blah blah blah. And players have noted that the actual range of my trebuchets is actually farther. I was just doing a really conservative estimate when we were on the Borderlands bombarding stuff. One thing you'll note about Stonemist is that it could reach certain points on the enemy or on these towers that surround it. So like you could hit Wild Creek Run, you could hit Anzalius Pass with Trebs, you could blow down these walls probably. Coven's Gulch you could hit. Quinton Lake, I think, yeah, you could hit it a little bit. Definitely you could hit Doriel's Gulch. And so if you play it smart, you could actually set up Trebs that are very useful against these different towers. But likewise, you could set up Trebs at these towers to destroy a wall section, and to get into Stonemist. Does that make sense? So it works both ways, and you could probably even build stuff up here to like hit there. I don't know if you could go all the way up here. I mean, you could get this ogres up here and do a bombardment from up there. The moles, maybe, if you're like right in here, there's like a passage right here for the moles. But it works both ways. So you could attack with Stonemist using siege weapons, but you could also defend Stonemist using siege weapons. So that's it on Stonemist per se. Not too much more strategy besides, first floor, second floor, third floor. Using third floor if you're like a little outnumbered, you could set up siege weapons in there for defense or offense. Watch out for getting sandwiched by two sides. And when you're in, make sure you clear out the enemies on the lower floors because they're going to cause you a lot of troubles. Now I'm going to talk about the NPCs. The NPCs are kind of fun. And actually I drew this little, I call it the NPC thug. So I drew it. I don't know. It's kind of ugly looking. It's actually this like little ogre thing. If you want, I'll do a bigger picture. But anyways, these are 3 NPC faction camps. And what they... Whoa. Wrong one. Whoa. Wrong one. Okay, here we go. Right one. The factions basically is you go to the area, and if they don't belong to an enemy side yet, you fight for them by killing whatevers. I think for the Molemen, you kill Drudge. The Ogres, you kill Harpies. The Hylics, you kill Kraits. Kraits are like these little lizard men. Harpies are ugly, winged, naked women flying around. And the Drudge are like little kobolds. And so you kill them off, and you gain affection by the moles or the ogres or the Hylics, and then they'll help you out. When they help you out, this whole area kind of is in your defense. The moles are very defensive, so enemies going in there pretty much get beat up unless you have a lot of enemies. And what they'll do is they'll send out these little thug squads. Like the ogres will send guys to Ogre Watch and to Panglass Rise. They also send ogres to Umberglade and also to Dorios, I think. And they'll stand outside, maybe to Bravos. And it's kind of cool because when they stand and guard, and others might not agree with me, but for me, when I do a 3-man hit team on a supply camp, that's already kind of shaky. It's like, I don't know if we're going to be able to take the supply camp with 3 guys and a lot of pets. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. 4 guys, guarantee we could take it. But if they have their thug squad that they send out and protect it, it's going to be a little harder. Like, I'll have a hard time 5-manning it or 3-manning it. Definitely 3-manning it is suicidal, and we tried that at the beginning of beta and got whooped when we were trying to take Dalian Pass. They send them to Quinton Lake. The Hylics come to Quinton Lake, Dalian Pass. Langors, I'm not sure. They come to Colvin's Gulch, Galantic Clearing. One time at Galantic Clearing, like, we were just getting whooped, and we're three-manning it, trying to take it, but we're just getting slaughtered. All of a sudden, all these frogmen show up, and then they beat down the enemies. They kill the veteran overseer, and we're like, oh my gosh, these great frogmen came and helped us. We love them. And so it's kind of cool, you know, because they run around and do all these things and help you out. And or they could defend positions by adding more troops to that area. One thing I also wanted to point out was there are skill challenges at each of these camps. So like down here for the Hylics, if you fight your way in here, there's a skill challenge over here. And this is something new added to beta weekend 2 because they wanted to kind of balance PvE with PvP. While before, if all you did was spend your time in the World v World areas, you wouldn't get all these skill challenges and increase your skill points. There's one right here for the ogres, and then the moles somewhere deep in here. There's one. So of course there's one in Stonemist, one in Moleworks, one in Ograth, and one in Hylics. And so there's 4 skill points you could get on this map. If that helps you out. The other maps have 3 points, 3 skill challenges, and I could go over that at a later time. But for now, this is what you need to know. And for the moles, they're a little bit different because although they do send out the thug squads, they also set up turrets that pop up all over the place. Like, you know, there'll be like mole turrets that are all over the place and start bombarding people. I'm like, what the hell are these turrets doing here? Moleworks is also kind of easier to defend. There's one way in here. There's a passage here and a passage here, I think. And so there's like a 3 choke point thing. But same thing kind of with like the ogres, because there's like a 2 choke point thing, like one right here and one right here. Personally, I think taking the NPCs is important because they send out all these little guards that kind of block off low squad number hit teams, like the 3-man teams that try to take the supply camps. And if there's like a couple of veterans there, more than just the one that protect the camp, it's a little bit harder to peel them all off and kill them all off in time. As opposed to like, oh, you know, the supply camp only has 4 guards, you know, versus like 8 guards. And so that's why I think these are a little bit more important than some players think. And they kind of block passage through also. At least sometimes. So that's it for these guys, and we'll go to part 3, which will go over the different factions, red, green, and blue, and some of the more, I guess, details. There's not super details because I don't know too much super details, and so yeah, we'll go into that in a little bit. Alright, so see you in part 3.